Episode 19. Tanhua too very naturally fell asleep as if the room was her own room. The bed was too soft and warm. She couldn't resist the gravity released by the bed. And so just like that, Tanhua fell asleep without experiencing a heart-throbbing moment with Nanshen. 12 a.m. When Tanhua was having a nice dream about being back in her world, eating delicious food and enjoying her life, a faint noise rang throughout the room. Crake? The noise came from the window. Nanshen's house was quite tall and had a good security system, but somehow all of them didn't work at this time. Seconds later, a shadow of someone could be seen quietly entering the room. The person entering the room was skillful, as that person didn't make noise at all. The person walked slowly until he arrived near Nanshen's bed, which was occupied by Nanshen and his doggo, Tanhua. The person then squatted down and looked at the peacefully sleeping Tanhua with a twitch on his forehead. This girl is sleeping so soundly on a man's bed? When he was so worried searching for her at the zoo, this girl surprisingly just slept like that? This mysterious person was none other than Shen Ling, who had just found Nanshen's house after Tanhua sent him the location right before she slept. Shen Ling thought Tanhua suffered injustice and bullying from the evil Nanshen. He had prepared to be a hero in the middle of the silent night by rescuing the trapped princess when, who knew? What he saw was something enough to make him want to choke Tanhua to death. This girl very casually fell asleep on that devil's bed. She was a grown-up woman. Oi. How could she sleep so casually without any worry right beside a man as evil as Nanshen? This wasn't right. He had to wake Tanhua and get her to their house as soon as possible. Psst, Tanhua. A very familiar voice of Shenling sounded through Tanhua's ears. Ugh. Tanhua rubbed her ear where Shenling whispered and raised her left hand unconsciously. Slap. Tanhua? Slapped him? The hand hit Shenling's face accidentally, while the one who did that still hadn't realized anything wrong. She was busy pulling Nanshen's blanket closer to her body to warm herself. Tanhua felt unsatisfied, having only a little part of the blanket, so she wriggled like a worm to get more. Still hadn't felt right. Tanhua then tugged Nanshen's blanket and rolled her body inside like an egg roll. Nanshen, who suddenly felt a little cold when the blanket was tugged over to Tanhua's side, unconsciously did the same as Tanhua. Nanshen tugged on the blanket that Tanhua wore and snuggled his body in it, seeking warmth. Nanshen turned his body, facing Tanhua, as he wrapped himself with the blanket. Tanhua's face was now facing Nanshen's face, and both of them were in a little tug-of-war over the blanket, completely unaware of the god who had just been slapped by Tanhua. Tanhua! How dare she ignore him like this? Shenling's mind had almost exploded seeing Tanhua keep on sleeping while having a tug-of-war. It seemed that he couldn't wake up this little dumb doggo. Then, he should just kidnap her by force. Shenling tugged the blanket Tanhua wore and tossed it onto Nanshen's body. When Tanhua, whose body was exposed without having the blanket covering her, unconsciously tried to find the blanket back. But before Tanhua could reach for the blanket, Shenling had scooped her body like scooping ice cream and carried her in his arms like a princess. The next second, Shenling went out from the window, bringing Tanhua with him to go back to their house. Tanhua was kidnapped by Shenling. Unfortunately, the poor devil was currently sleeping like a baby, unaware of what had happened to his little doggo. The next day in Nanshen's room, it was 6 a.m. in the morning, and the morning person, CEO Nan, had woken up. He rubbed his eyes lazily as his fluffy brown hair was a mess like a bird's nest. He tossed his blanket aside while still half asleep. Then, he went down from his bed and went to the toilet to brush his teeth and take a bath. He still didn't know that Tanhua wasn't in his room anymore. The bed was already empty, with only the blanket left lying alone there. 10 minutes later, Nanshen was fully awake and had just finished his bath. He then looked at the bed and was about to wake up the lazy doggo when he realized the bed was empty. His doggo disappeared. Huo isn't here. Where did he go? Nanshen quickly went out from his room and asked his humanoid servants about Tanhua. Maybe the boy was having breakfast or morning exercise, but the results he got were disappointing. Tanhua was nowhere to be seen. That boy disappeared? Don't tell him? He was kidnapped? Nanshen was worried to death. He was a famous person, so there would be a lot of people who disliked him. Not to mention that he had business in the dark world. He had many dangerous enemies. If someone spotted Tanhua entering his house, then maybe those bad people. It was possible that they kidnapped Tanhua. This is bad. Nanshen quickly dressed neatly and called his secretary. Wu Yin, Tanhua disappeared. Last night I brought him to my house and then. Nanshen was unusually shaken. He really was panicking right now. The Nanshen who always faced everything calmly had now lost his calm. Calm down, Mr. Nan. Tell me the details first. Wu Yin, who had just woken up, quickly wore his eyeglasses and straightened his back. Mr. Nan's voice was shaking and he talked too fast. What's wrong with him? He was usually very calm, even in the most dire situations he ever faced. But now just because a mere office boy went missing after he went to Mr. Nan's house, Mr. Nan was panicking. Wait, what? That skinny office boy went to Mr. Nan's house? It was only a day or so after they first met, and Mr. Nan already allowed that boy to come to his house? Was he dreaming? Right, I need to calm down. Nanshen, who heard what Wu Yin said, took a deep breath as he sat down on his bed. He had indeed felt panic for a moment back then. He was the one who took that boy as his guest, so if the boy went missing right in his house, and if the media knew, his reputation would crumble. Nanshen thought that he was worried because of his image and reputation, when in fact, even if he did put on a good gentleman image with an excellent reputation, he never lost his calm just because his people were kidnapped. Nanshen himself didn't know why he was feeling very worried. He felt uneasy. He wanted to see that boy in one piece, unharmed, healthy, and alive. Then Nanshen told Wu Yin about what happened last night, about how he slept with Tanhua, and the next morning, which was today, the boy disappeared. Well, Nanshen's words did mislead someone, Wu Yin. What? Not only did Mr. Nan invite that boy to his house, but he even slept with him? He didn't know that Mr. Nan was gay. Oh, okay, Mr. Nan, I'll try to find his location. Wu Yin ended the call after hearing the whole story and sighed. Today he just found out Mr. Nan's biggest secret. Mr. Nan was actually gay. He even did it with someone 6 years younger than him. And that someone was even only an office boy. That morning, Nanshen and Wu Yin were busy searching for information about Tanhua, as the culprit might contact them to ask for something, but until 8 a.m. there was still no news. The girl who created the storm in Nanshen's house didn't know that someone thought she was kidnapped. The girl had just woken up at 7 a.m. and was too panicked that she would be late, making her not realize that she had changed houses. She woke up in her cramped apartment again. Shenling, I'm leaving. Tanhua didn't eat breakfast that morning and hurriedly dashed to the station. It took 1 hour to get to the neighboring city, and the train she could take now departed at 7:30. If she couldn't get to this train, then she would be super late. Shenling, who saw Tanhua dashing outside like a mad dog, could only shake his head as he continued cleaning the house alone. At Nanshen's office. 9 a.m. Nanshen was walking back and forth in his office, waiting for Wu Yin to find news about Tanhua's disappearance, but he still hadn't gotten anything. He was getting more worried as time passed, and right at this moment his office door was opened so suddenly with a rude bang sound. Boss, sorry I'm late. The boy whom the duo had been looking for several hours already, out of nowhere, just popped up inside the office, successfully making Wu Yin almost throw his handphone at Tanhua's face. Where are you going this morning? How can you leave just like that? The moment Tanhua came, Nanshen grabbed her by her collar and nearly slammed her onto his table out of anger. Well, he did anyway. What? I don't know. I woke up this morning and found out I'm already in my house. Tanhua tried to push away Nanshen, but she was too powerless. Heh, do you know how worried I was, huh? I thought you were kidnapped by my rival in business. Nanshen put his hand on Tanhua's head and squeezed it hard. Boss, sorry. With tears in her eyes, Tanhua grimaced in pain as she looked over to Wu Yin, trying to seek help, which was splendidly ignored by Wu Yin. Heh, you trolled me, didn't you? I think it's punishment time.